So thank you for joining us for the Planning for Privacy, Deconstructing SBIR episode in our series. I am Dusty Lang. I am the director of the DHS SBIR program, the Small Business Innovation Research Program. As I'll be referring to it as SBIR from here on out. But for high level, for those of you who aren't super familiar with SBIR, it's a program that allows DHS to reach out to small businesses to get their ideas on how to provide innovative ideas and solutions for our challenges and the DHS missions. So I started this Deconstructing SBIR series because SBIR is always looking to make sure we're reaching out to new small businesses and diversity of small businesses across the industry. And a lot of times those companies do not have a lot of experience or limited experience working with the federal government. And it can be challenging. And the SBIR program is a great way to start working with the federal government because it's got some structure and it's got some things that provide guidance and assistance, but we still want to do everything we can to help demystify how the program works and how working with the government works. So today's topic, again, planning for privacy. I've asked Maria Petrakis to join me so that she can help talk about this subject in a way that is far beyond my ability to speak to. So Maria, you're the Component Privacy Officer, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. So I'm glad I got it right. Can you tell me what that role is and how it fits into S&T?
Sure. So first off, good afternoon, everyone. As Dusty stated, I'm Maria Petrakis, and I am S&T's Science and Technology Component Privacy Officer. We're very excited for the discussion today, and we're really looking forward to working closely with Dusty and all the small businesses. Here within this role, Dusty, as you know, but other folks may not, I'm an attorney by trade and have been with the Department of Homeland Security for about 5 years. 3 of those years as the Component Privacy Officer for Science and Technology. We are your asset here, and we will help navigate any privacy questions you may have. So we're really looking forward to this discussion. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So first question, can you tell us about the DHS privacy policy and the overarching principles and goals of the office?
Sure. So as you can see here in the slide deck, the department takes proactive measures to ensure privacy and civil rights and civil liberties protections are properly addressed from the beginning stage. So this includes upholding federal statutes to include the Privacy Act and E-Government Act, executive orders, and also the Homeland Security Act and specific DHS privacy policies. So what we really focus on here is we have specific statutes and processes in place to ensure privacy is baked into the research, development, technology, and evaluation lifecycle, also known as RDT&E. And so we use a lot of acronyms here at DHS. You'll hear us say S&T, which is Science and Technology, and RDT&E, which is the word I just mentioned. So how do we do that, right? And so privacy looks to protect more than just people's personally identifiable information. We also look to protect any technologies that can erode privacy protections. So personal identifiable information, which you will hear me refer to as PII, is any information that permits an identity of an individual to be directly or indirectly inferred, including any information that is linkable to that individual. For example, the information found on a business card is considered personally identifiable information. Another thing that really guides us, as I mentioned, is the Privacy Act. The Privacy Act is a law that governs the collection, maintenance, and use and dissemination of personally identifiable information, PII, that is maintained by the federal government. It states and it requires agencies to provide notice to the public whenever the government establishes a system of record on individuals. We do this by publishing system of record notices, or what we refer to as SORNs. A principal foundation of the Privacy Act holds that there must be no personal data recording keeping system whose very existence is secret. So After the Privacy Act, we really, like I said, it's a multi-layered approach in terms of the different laws and statutes we abide by. So another one of those fundamental principles is the E-Government Act. And this establishes the requirement for a privacy impact assessment, which is another acronym you will hear in the department, also referred to as PIAS, Privacy Impact Assessment. And here at S&T, we use another vehicle, which is referred to as privacy threshold analyses. And those are referred to as PTAs. So we start with the PTA, and then we determine if a privacy impact assessment is needed. And so really the privacy threshold analyses, we use these as a tool to determine whether a system, program, or activity is privacy sensitive and if it will require a privacy impact assessment or a system of record notice. Next, the Homeland Security Act establishes the authority for DHS headquarters to go beyond the Privacy Act and E-Government Act. It establishes that we are to assure that the use of technologies at DHS enhance privacy protections rather than erode them. The DHS Privacy Policy Directive, specifically for research programs, builds on all these previous legislations to allow us to determine whether a research program or project is privacy sensitive. And this enables us to address or identify privacy impacts. I know I just said a lot there, Dusty, but.
So for those of you at home taking notes, don't worry, we're not expecting you to have memorized all of this. And if your notes are like my notes, just later there'll be a half a sentence that doesn't make any sense. So, you know, a couple of things. No, they weren't required to remember all of that. This is informational, it's background, and I think it really does show all of the work that is being done by your office. Good work that has a tremendous amount of value to the public. So we appreciate the work that you and your office do. So one of the things I wanted to touch on, and I thought was really kind of well named, was a privacy by design approach. So can you talk about that in the context of everything that you've just explained to us?
Sure. Thanks so much, Dusty. And honestly, we really value the excellent relationship we have with the SBIR program. And another thing that I'll add is we're here as your partners to help meet all these requirements. We don't expect you to understand this by any means. That's why we're here to assist. And so Dusty and the SBIR program have an excellent relationship with the Privacy Office here at S&T. And so we'll work collectively so that everyone understands how to meet these requirements that we have to uphold here as the government officials. So what is privacy by design, right? So privacy by design is implementing privacy at the beginning of a research development project, right? So as the requirements are coming in, you have privacy at the table, and we're there as a value add, ensuring that the privacy protections and mitigations are baked in from the beginning, right? So what our office does is we use the privacy by design approach for implementing the Fair Information Practice Principles, another acronym which DHS Privacy refers to it as the FIPS. The FIPS are foundational principles that guide our DHS activities. So what does that mean? That means we really are looking at, as the slide here states, on the Fair Information Practice Principles and baking them in by using the privacy by design implementation. So things that we're looking at collectively when we're working with Dusty and the small businesses is the information, and we do this in the PTAs, right? We do it in the privacy threshold analysis. Our analysis really looks at, is there transparency? Is there individual participation? For example, did the folks, if we need to interview someone, did they give consent, right? Like we look at those types of things. We look at the purpose specification. We look at data minimization. We look at use limitation, data quality and integrity, securing the information appropriately, and accountability and auditing, because we want to make sure we're protecting the information like we said we were. So a healthy privacy program that implements a privacy by design approach permits the identification of individual risks early on. And this can be a huge, it really is a huge cost savings for not only the small businesses, but all the partners we work with within the directorate. Because in the beginning, you're addressing cost savings by addressing the privacy and security considerations at the initiative of the life cycle, right? It would not behoove anyone to spend, a lot of money, build a system, and then the protections of how that data was supposed to be encrypted or shared with third parties was not addressed, right? So we're there to proactively embed the privacy by design into any specific technology solution. And what this does, it's twofold. It's mutually symbiotic, right? Because it contributes to the culture of trust and transparency, which our office brings to the directorate and to the rest of the Department of Homeland Security. And it helps you aim to accomplish your DHS goal because you're protecting the public's information from the beginning and any information, any additional PII or privacy sensitive technologies. So it really is a value add to ensure we're at the table from the beginning.
And what's really interesting, and you mentioned transparency a couple times, and as we were preparing for this, and just for full disclosure, I don't have memorized everything that Maria's I've talked about. I go to her; she's the expert. But so I just found it really interesting when I was doing some research to make sure that we were talking about what we should talk about in this episode. That transparency was, and it seems like an oxymoron. It's like transparency and privacy. So it's not the transparency of the privately identifiable information, the PII, it's the transparency of what DHS is doing that is important. So that we're making sure that as we are undertaking efforts, we're not doing something that is out of line or not in compliance with the privacy rules. Great, thank you. I appreciate that. So, and I'm not going to try to remember what FIPS actually was. I'm just going to ask a question about it. So you talked about implementing this FIPS, and so there's the on paper and there's the this is what you have to do. But what does that look like from a small business perspective if they were going to implement a FIPS into their design?
So, the fair information practice principles, they're implemented by
right?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's alphabet soup here within the government. So it's a lot. And each acronym can mean something different if you're in a different agency. So yeah. I get it. But really what we do, as we outlined the FIPS earlier, is we bake it in by using the privacy by design implementation, right? So as your small business is coming up with your technology solutions, whether it's applied to information technologies, physical designs, or network systems, applying the privacy by design framework through the FIPS, the Fair Information Practice Principles, keeps the privacy protections of the individual as a priority, right? So your innovative technology solutions are accomplished by offering measures such as strong privacy defaults while empowering user-friendly options. Addressing privacy and security equities in the beginning allows for privacy to become the prevailing condition. And as a result, implementing the privacy protections into your technology solution enables your small business to deliver an innovative solution that meets both privacy, security, and end user requirements.
Before we scare them too much, as Maria mentioned earlier, we have a very, very collaborative relationship that's been very beneficial and very valuable between the Privacy Office and my office. And so we've actually learned some lessons over the past couple of years and done some things to develop some processes for the SBIR program that it's not taking a different path. It's trying to figure out the best ways to integrate the Privacy Office and their review into how we proceed with SBIR. And there's been some challenging topics that have a great value for DHS and that we need to pursue, but also need to make sure that there's some really good privacy oversight and compliance in there. So we've collaborated, and one of the things we've done is worked with them on the topic level. So, as we go out with topics, you guys are aware of which topics we'll be going out with, and have indicated, okay, there's some areas where we may want to give heads up about some things to look out for mitigation of privacy impacts potentially. And then when we get to have the actual application and the solutions proposed, then we come back to you and go, okay, here's what we got, just in case somebody comes up with something completely different, which is wonderful often, and say, okay, well, that has a privacy potential impact that we weren't necessarily considering. So we always are going back and making sure. So we're not leaving these small businesses out in the cold on that. So do you want to talk about that as well?
Sure, of course. And you're absolutely right, Dusty, right? What we really want to let folks know is it's, of course, to meet the mission, you will and may need sensitive information. You may need the PII or SPII, which is sensitive personal identifiable information, right? And that's okay. It's okay to do that. We just need to bake in the protections early on to make sure if need be, you know, the information needs to be encrypted, or, you know, who has access to view that information, right? And we do that through different avenues here. And again, we don't expect our third party, you know, our small businesses or any third party that the government works with to know all those requirements, right? That's what we're here for, to work with you in your office, Dusty, and our small business partners to put that in as joint documentation, right? We're meeting the government requirements by doing this. So again, we don't want to scare you with any of this, because we understand it's a lot of information. If anything, we just want you to understand that we're your closest partners, and we're going to work with you all along the process. It's not like a one-stop shop, as Dusty said, right? You're broken into different phases. So what does that mean? So really, as you know, Dusty, you know, we work directly with your office to ensure all the privacy compliance documentation is in place. An example of the privacy compliance documentation were the PTAs, the PIAs, and the SORNs that I mentioned earlier. And that documentation includes requirements and instructions to ensure that the SBIR companies selected for the award adhere to the federal standards, right? So at the same time, the SBIR Program Office also partners with S&T's office to build with our office to build in the privacy and considerations and protections into S&T's business process and mission outcomes, okay? So the S&T privacy lifecycle approach enhances oversight and transparency into the department and demonstrates accountability to the public. And so the privacy lifecycle begins at the solicitation phase with the initial planning effort and continues throughout the SBIR project lifecycle, as Dusty said, to ensure that any potential privacy risks that come out down the line are identified, understood, and mitigated appropriately, right? Because we can only protect the information that we know. So it's imperative that we're, you know, open and honest about the information that you need to meet the mission needs so that we can protect it appropriately, right? And so how do we do this? As I said, we're really your partner, but so you understand how it works within the department is that we, our office, myself and my wonderful team, our wonderful S&T Privacy Office team, you'll be assigned an analyst or working with someone specifically to work through your privacy threshold analysis. Now we're S&T's resource, right? So we're your component privacy officer, Dusty, but we're also the belly button, and we work directly with the other component privacy officers, right? Like if there needs to be a joint initiative with another component within the department, we help facilitate that relationship. And something else you'll hear of is all the compliance documentation that I mentioned earlier goes through a review process and an adjudication process to headquarters privacy, right? So each component each component within the department has their own privacy officer. And then we all adjudicate, all our documentation is adjudicated by headquarters privacy. But again, we foster those relationships. We'll set up joint meetings if need be. You know, if we need to work with a different component, we'll put joint documentation in place. And then we'll bring in headquarters privacy, you know, if they have questions on the compliance documentation. But again, we're there as the belly button, you know, guiding you through, you know, our privacy world. So as Dusty stated earlier, you know, SBIR is unique in that you guys are broken down by different phases, right? And so we were trying to come up with a mutually symbiotic solution that fits SBIR needs and meets the privacy requirements from our end. So what we've decided, and what's been working really well with between our two offices, is that we will conduct a PTA, privacy threshold analysis, for all proposed solutions selected by SBIR for the Phase 1 award. This allows us to document the proposed approach early on and before the small business advances to Phase 2, before they actually build the prototype of their solution. So there's going to be a Phase 1 PTA, and then before a small business concern advances to Phase 2, a separate privacy threshold analysis, PTA, is conducted for their proposed Phase 2 efforts. And that's done because there may be different information that's needed to mitigate and address any other potential privacy risks and impacts. And also it assists them before they begin their time and invest time and money, that everything has been appropriately looked at and the mitigations are baked in from the beginning. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's a lot, Dusty.
Again, it's a lot, and this is a lot, and just a reiteration of this, you know, we're doing this, our goal is to provide the best guidance at the topic level and the best information to the companies on what's happening, so they know, you know, kind of, again, transparency behind the screens, what we're doing to make sure all of these things are being reviewed and are compliant as appropriate. So, and just as a caveat, you know, for the next question I'm about to ask, we don't necessarily expect anybody to come in and have already included in there absolutely every detail that we may need in terms of information that you need to be able to determine the impacts that need to be mitigated. So, but let's chat about it anyway. What types of information do you need when we're submitting a proposed effort to be able to make that determination?
So that's a great question, Dusty. Thank you for asking that. So as we're drafting our privacy compliance documentation, right, the easy part is that, and I know, Dusty, we've worked closely with your office, that you have what you're actually doing documented somewhere, right? Either through the solicitation or through a project management plan, right? Or there's a concept of operations, IT, security plans. We look at data sharing vehicles such as information sharing agreements, right? Because we want to be able to understand if component X has allowed us to view their information, and they may have protocols in place to make sure another component or another third party may not have access to that information, right? So it's all about the data management piece and assuring the right users have access to it. But we also look at memorandums of understandings that detail the conditions of the data sharing, right? So our office really looks at data and how to protect that data. If it means protecting it in a system, or if it means data user agreements or data disposal agreements, right? Because everyone talks about getting the data, but what happens when the project's over, right? We document that through data disposal agreements so that everyone is on the same page from the beginning. And allowing that transparency and that level of communication, we have found to be absolutely instrumental to the success that S&T offers to our mission partners.
Yeah, I put myself on mute so I wasn't rustling papers. But so I want to pull the thread there a little bit more on what you talked about in terms of, I know I was surprised to learn about some of the things that are needed in order to be compliant with information that's publicly available. Can you talk about that? Because I would have thought coming in, okay, well, I'm using information that's out on the internet, so I've got no worries, but
Sure.
Not necessarily.
Sure, that's such a great question, Dusty. And we get this question a lot, right? So the public, and it's a multifaceted approach, but really the short answer is, so the public entrusts S&T to protect our small business partners. They should also practice good privacy hygiene to protect the integrity of the data. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But what that means is that they must consider the source and content of the data they are handling and be mindful when they're collecting data from sources there may be restrictions, right? Because a private citizen can gather certain types of PII or SPII, whereas the federal government has certain mitigations in place. And because of the federal statutes I mentioned earlier, our collection has to be narrow in scope. We really have to go through it to understand. And we do all that through the PTA. But really what we want our third-party small business partners to understand is you may have restrictions because you're working on behalf of the federal government. So you're trying to find a solution. So sometimes those restrictions extend out to you. And again, we don't expect you to know all those, right? But those are things that will be teased out in the beginning, right? As we're gathering the requirements, when we're putting together that privacy threshold analysis, Dusty, or when we're putting together that information sharing agreement, right? If the small businesses need to access certain types of publicly available information, we need to understand what that is. And then we'll advise them on the protections that need to be put in place for those collections to happen. But really, again, that's just something for folks to be mindful for. And as always, you know, it's as a best practice, and, you know, we say this often, they need to secure the PII, the personally identifiable information that they're handling appropriately as well. So they need to encrypt it or password protect it, you know, when they're not using it. Ensure only proper users with the need to know have access to that information. So all of that are things that we discuss with you know, our small business partners in the beginning.
Great. So that takes care of that challenge that I wouldn't have assumed was there. But then also there's the other side of it where, you know, especially as we move to like test and evaluation, as you mentioned, the RDT&E. So the T&E part of the RDT&E. There's a good chance that on many of the efforts, there may be a need to demonstrate the prototype using information that has some merit, and then therefore that could be sometimes test data that's provided by DHS. So are there considerations for information that they may receive for testing or other, you know, purposes from DHS?
And I think, Dusty, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're referring if, you know, for example, we needed to partner with a component and they were to share their data.
Right.
Sure. So that's another great question. And so again, I kind of touched upon this earlier, but we will help foster that relationship, right? So the components, when they partner with us, they share certain data to S&T to perform RDT&E functions. So we need to ensure that we're protecting the components data appropriately. And once a pilot or test is over, S&T either returns the component data to the component, or we purge the data if appropriate. So again, those are things that we'll walk, you know, the SBIR program, yourself, and our small business partners through. You know, what does it mean? Because the component may have different restrictions on their data, right? You know, it may be law enforcement sensitive and needs to be protected at a certain level, right? But they will tell us how to protect their data. And again, that's done either through the information sharing agreements and specifically those PTAs, those privacy threshold analysis. And that's when we would foster joint documentation if need be, right? And we'll help our small businesses navigate through that. But so it's just different requirements. Another requirement is that, you know, S&T would need to be mindful. And when I say S&T, our small business partners, that if the component data is protected at a given level within the component system, it would need to be protected at the same confidentiality and integrity level on an S&T system or wherever that data would lie, right? But again, those are things that we can walk through together because, you know, we understand there's a lot of different nuances and we don't want people to feel overwhelmed. We want people to tell us what you need, right? Tell us what you need to do the mission, and we'll work proactively to make sure those privacy mitigations are baked in from the beginning. Dusty, I think you're on mute again.
I gotta stop doing that. So I would argue that we work with, you know, some of the best and brightest, you know, in industry. And so I have I have faith and confidence in the folks that we work with, but I also know that mistakes happen. So can you talk about what happens, like what sort of things constitute a breach or a leak, and processes for if there is a leak or a breach? And I'm not putting myself on mute this time.
Okay, that sounds good. Listen, you're absolutely right. Everyone, we deal, with sensitive information at times, and so we just need to understand how to best protect that. And what does that mean, right? So the department looks at privacy incidents and privacy breaches and what to do if there is one. So a privacy incident encompasses both suspected and confirmed incidents involving PII, whether they are intentional or inadvertent, that raise a reasonable risk of harm. So a privacy incident is the loss of control, compromise, unauthorized disclosure, unauthorized acquisition, or any similar occurrence where an unauthorized user accesses or potentially accesses PII, or if an authorized user accesses or potentially accesses PII for an unauthorized purpose. Right? And then a privacy breach is a privacy incident that involves unauthorized modification, exfiltration, deletion, or otherwise compromised PII. So reporting a suspected or confirmed privacy incident in a timely manner is required by federal law and policy, but it also helps DHS maintain the public trust, right? So for example, if you're authorized to receive business contact information, but you inadvertently, by accident, someone sent you an individual social security number that you should not have had access to in the course of doing business with the department, this is considered a privacy incident, and you're obligated to report that privacy incident to be in compliance with the federal laws and DHS policies. So proactively reporting either confirmed or suspected incidents shows good faith. And if you have any questions about what does that mean, was this a privacy incident? Was it a privacy breach? Reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you out through there. And you can reach out to the S&T Privacy inbox, which is sntprivacy@hq.dhs.gov. But also, please reach out to Dusty, and Dusty can include us in the discussion as well. So even if you're not sure, it's better to just be fully transparent, and it shows good faith, right? Because accidents happen. It happens all the time. And it's not a big deal. We just need to make sure we report it and then we mitigate it appropriately. And so, Dusty, I know I said a lot today.
Yes.
And there's just there's a lot of information. And I think we provided everyone with links, right?
Yes, so we should have a slide that will have some links, and if you want to chat about those links, Maria, that this is a great time to be able to share some information about those.
Sure. So we provided this, there's the DHS privacy website, right? So like I said, that's headquarters, and then all the laws and regulations trickle down, through the components to the component privacy offices. But this is a public facing website. It's www.dhs.gov/topic/privacy. And there you can click on several different links. It shows the PTA, the privacy threshold analysis. What is that? It shows where the privacy impact assessments are published, because those are public documents, right? And so you can go and you can read some of those to see what they are. But that homepage has just absolutely a wealth of knowledge to go by.
Thank you. And so we did get some questions from the audience. We don't have a lot of time because we're coming up on our threshold for optimal webinar timeframes. But I do want to ask one at least. We got a great one that I think is worthy of getting some information out there. So I'm going to read that to you. So do DHS privacy officials rely solely on open federal privacy laws and regulations, or do privacy laws and regulations from state or local entities affect your recommendations about privacy compliance issues?
Okay. Yeah, that is a really good question, right? That's an excellent question. So thank you to whoever asked that. So when you're working in short, when you're working with the federal government and your business is to create something for the federal government, right? Or you're doing business for the federal government in general, your business must adhere to the federal statutes and federal standards, right? So, you know, by default, what we're required to do, you know, we would educate you on that, you know, through those different privacy compliance documentations to ensure, you know, you're following, you know, the federal statutes and federal standards as well. And I know we're over the 30-minute time, but and if there were more questions, you know, Dusty, if folks want to reach out to you, we're more than happy to address them at a later time, because I know we've gone over.
Yeah, so I think we should have another slide with some information for folks to be able to look for the SBIR program page. So there's the portal that will be, we have a solicitation that should be going out for pre-solicitation mid-November is the usual time frame. So look out and connect with us on social media, and or you'll get emails. So many of the ways you heard about this will also be the ways we communicate about that. There's the website for our program, just the general information. We are participating in the SBA's road tours. So there's one next week for the southern states. They do let the companies from other states participate if there's room. So if that's something you're interested in, you can check that out. And then at the bottom is the email address for our office. So stsbir.program@hq.dhs.gov. We monitor that consistently. So you're not going to send an email there and it will be ignored. We will get back to you. So if there's questions that are related to how SBIR and privacy, those two things meet, then certainly we'd like to get that information out to you. And then there's our phone number, 202-252-7000. I will tell you, you are going to get a recording. You're going to get a voicemail, but leave a message and we can get back to you from there. So yes, we're up against the end here, but I just want to give one quick moment for you for any final thoughts, anything that may have not been in what we discussed already that you want to make sure you communicate.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really, Dusty, I just want to thank you, right? We want to thank you for the strong partnership that we're forming with your office. It's wonderful. We're excited, you know, to partner with you and bring a value add. So with that, we're excited to work with the small businesses, right? For us to collectively work together. And I think this is a wonderful discussion. So we just want to thank you again for the opportunity to be part of it.
Thank you. And like I said at the beginning, I always want to make sure that when we're seeking innovation, we're always doing our best job, and we're seeking that from as many places as possible. Diversity is important there. And a lot of times, again, that comes without necessarily a knowledge of the federal government. We were all there at one point. So whatever we can do to help bridge that gap, we're happy to do. Thank you so much, Maria, and to your office and my office for helping to prepare us for this. We hope everybody who joined was able to understand some of the acronyms that we sent out there. So thanks for joining, and we will see you for the next Deconstructing SBIR. Stay tuned for information coming out about that.